Garoppolo behind that line would get the ball out faster probably, but he might also take more sacks.
Yeah, if you think about like all the top quarterbacks in the league that all can move, is the reason that they drafted this guy to try to replicate what they had, seen around the league, from Josh Allen to Mahomes to obviously Lamar and Kyler, guys that can just Justin Herbert keep plays alive with their legs. And remember, he said that they wanted Lamar Jackson meets Drew Brees. Well, I think it's pretty clear we ain't getting Drew Brees, and we're not quite getting Lamar Jackson, but we are. I think Trey has shown he's a little lighter on his feet. I feel this year, don't you? It's not quite as heavy footed, of just a little more confidence moving around back there. I feel like he's just a little quicker, a little more, little sprite. It feels like he understands the speed of the game better than last year, which is very understandable, right? Taking a year off, getting thrown into that Arizona Cardinal game, which I forget that sometimes. I mean, at the time, they were the best team in the league. They were undefeated. And the one thing they do have on that defense is like stupid team speed, right? I mean, their best player, Budda Baker, is just like kind of this hybrid hitter.
Yeah.
Isaiah Simmons is even a bigger version of that. He's not as good as Budda, but like same type deal. They can fly. And that game, it was a run heavy game for him, but the speed was pretty overwhelming. And it feels like he's a little more, just even watching him at practice. I'm not trying to make like grand judgments on preseason games, but it definitely feels like his legs are more normalized this year of what we kind of thought we were getting.
Which is really,
and it's probably more
connected to his brain, right?
Yeah, and just knowing that he can move. Like, not every guy is going to be Isaiah Simmons fast, right? Some guys are faster than others, and that's just, to me, when you are running and you're not like Lamar or Kyler, where you can run away from every single person. That is where game plans help. Like, this guy can fly. This guy can't really run. There was a Hard Knocks moment in the third episode. Wasn't quite as good. But
I turned it off after 5 minutes.
It was pretty bad. But the joint practices were okay. Was a scene where Deuce is screaming at the running backs, but he doesn't have a voice. He lost his voice, and he's so mad that he can't scream. So he's like, it's so funny. Screaming, swearing at him. But the backup, like one of the backup safeties, is in the preseason game against the Colts, and he goes, the backup quarterback's in, he can't move like the other guy. Maybe it's like a third stringer relative to the second stringer, but like specific, like, this guy can't run, so tee off. Don't worry about like the other guy that can take off.
Yeah.
But to me, that just symbolizes, like, in the NFL, a huge part about like the game plan is knowing the strengths and weaknesses of every player. And as a quarterback, isn't that all we talk about? Like how Tom and Peyton and Drew and Aaron, they know everything about every guy. And obviously when you can run, it really helps. Like, this guy can't run, this guy can. I know I need to get out of bounds when this guy's cutting me off. I can outrun this guy. And that's going to be a huge element. I mean, we often talk, there's a lot going on for this guy coming into these games, right?
Well, and he doesn't have all the help that he's going to have, right? That interior line is a concern. I think you'd have to admit that it's not good. Now, maybe they can overcome it. And I think one of the ways they overcome it, Juszczyk is back there helping you. Hasty on third downs is back there. They trust him. Obviously, Kittle is there, and they trust him. So that line is going to have more help than it had tonight. And then, of course, the tackles. I mean, I think McGlinchey, we'll see. He's not 100%, but Trent Williams back. So
it feels like he's barely played throughout the preseason, even the practices we've been at, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's had
Kinlaw's been more active than McGlinchey.
Well, it hasn't been close. Like, Kinlaw hasn't, like McGlinchey, he had the surgery for his torn quad. I heard Barrow say he's had multiple PRP shots. So whether or not
is it not going well?
I don't know how badly it's going, but it's not going perfect. Like, I think we can say that, right? So, but I think ultimately, I always go back to this. I don't want to beat a dead horse. The thing that has stood out, one of the reasons I'm optimistic about Trey, is that when he breaks the pocket, he does look to throw the ball. Now, is he going to get strip sacked because he just doesn't tuck it and run once or twice? Maybe he might, right? He may get sacked a couple times where does not attack the line of scrimmage with his legs because he's looking to throw. But to me, at the end of the day, I would take that quality 10 out of 10 times from a quarterback, even if it means early on he might get caught from somebody chasing him down from the backside. I think maybe we see him run more, but I'm with you. I thought he did look a little more comfortable just in knowing in the clock in his head how much time he had to either break, like really break for it, or get rid of the football or throw it, whatever the case is. And he's going to need that skill. But you know, I don't want, to me, it's just about him taking hits. Like the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl last year with a horrid offensive line. You don't want to have Trey Lance in that situation that Joe Burrow was in, but part of why they survived it, this guy coming off an ACL, Joe Burrow, but he was athletic enough to help them make plays. And then we can talk about it, but Kyle understands, like the coach knows what a strength and the weakness of his own team is. And you know, you do things to account for that. Once they get into a game and they are pounding the rock also,
yeah,
I think
to me that plays it 100%. I mean, I think we're just looking at these guys like they just blow, and it may turn out that way that, you know, Burford's overmatched in certain moments or Aaron Banks is, but I think we do have to, the ebb and flow of a game is so much different than preseason. I mean, say one thing, the one thing that's going to stick out to me about this preseason is the 10 minutes I watched one Monday Night Football game, and Dan Orlovsky was like, well, guys, because it was something was going well in the preseason, I think for the Falcons or whatever game they were calling. And he's like, you know, I was part of that 0-16 Lions team. Never forget, we dominated the preseason. We went 4-0. And I think sometimes, because even tonight, you're like, God, that's a pretty gutless effort. And you're like, this doesn't fucking matter at all. Who cares? But when you're watching it, I'm just thinking like, what is going on? And then you think about this. They played Minnesota. They do joint practices. They play what was it, Saturday night. They have 2 joke practices this week, and then they play, like, it's not like every team's playing tonight. So a lot of teams are playing like Saturday.
It's a short week preseason game, is your point.
Short week preseason game, and they look lifeless.
Which should be illegal, really, when you think about it. Now, I know it's different players, but not every, like some of the guys played in both games.
All this stuff. How are the Bengals and the Rams? They just played in the Super Bowl. They're doing joint practices. What are we doing? I mean,